Welcome to Grandpa Hill's True Stories. This story is about what happened and is happening with my retirement savings and my 401k plans. I am not giving any financial advice, just letting you know how happy I am with being able to confidently and repeatedly do something about those ups and downs in the market that until the recent past have kept all my investments, all of the 401Ks that are in the stock market in a slow grow mode. Up, 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 down, down, down. Up, 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 down, down, down. That is over. This story is called Grandpa Learns to Maneuver His 401k. This story is for my children, my grandchildren, and all children. In a special way, it is for people that are in the United States that save money for retirement in a 401k. Well, regarding my 401k's historic performance, I always got exactly what I expected to get. I put money in. Sometimes my employer would also put money in. I never took it out, and I never moved it. The market goes up, and the market goes down. Sometimes up a lot, sometimes down a lot. On the average, it always comes back, and you always make money. I recall that I should expect maybe 3 to even 7% on average for the long haul. About 15 years ago, 2008, I felt like something was missing. Why, when my 401k started to drop, and it dropped a lot, why didn't my company do anything about it to protect my savings? Well, they couldn't do that. That was my job. I would have to know when it was coming down, and then would have to know what the procedure was for making the adjustments in my investment option. And then I'd also have to know when to change those options. And then changing the options had to be okay with the company. You could make some changes, but how frequently, it wasn't like every day or every week. So in 2008, my 401ks lost a lot of money. Don't know if it was 30 or maybe even 40%. As I was preparing to give up and quit on 401ks, one of my sons encouraged me to stay in there and telling me that it always comes back. Historically, all the money will be back, typically within a few years and usually much sooner, in just a few months. Well, it did come back, and I settled down and enjoyed the restoration of the balance and then the growth of my 401k. So that was 2008. Then we move all the way forward to February of 2020, and we had a pandemic. And I was closing in on retirement age. I was 62. Yet again, the 401ks took a big hit, maybe 20 to 25%. My thought, probably, the markets will come back as soon as they open the country up after all the shutdowns. So don't worry. Besides, I couldn't do anything about it. My other thought was, I want to invest in the stock market conservatively in a mutual fund right now. I can't stop the COVID hit that had happened with the 401k, but surely I could take the cash I had and buy now in March and make money on the way up. I would have to let the 401k return to what they were, the 401ks return to what they had been over time. In my financial world, the drop in the market was another lemon. Investing cash now, well, that would be lemonade. The lemonade would be my investing at the right time with the cash I had saved when the market was in a low spot. Buy low. That is when my longtime friend Howard Richmond came into the picture. We would talk occasionally during the early part of the pandemic, And among other things, he told me to consider getting into the market. It was at the end of March. I told him I was considering, but didn't know how to go about it. He recommended that I should use Vanguard and just buy Admiral shares, a mutual fund indexed to the S&P 500. He gave me a contact with Vanguard, and they helped me work through it. After further discussions, some phone calls, and computer transfers, I had assembled $195,000 in a Vanguard money market account, which was essentially cash. I checked back with Howard and made the decision to put the money in the market. With the money all set up, with a few clicks and checks and double checks, and all the $195,000 was invested by early April in the Admiral Fund. By early November, the values of the account had risen from $195,000 to $250,000. After taxes, there was $50,000 left. On my balance sheet, this offset my unemployment during the shutdown with COVID, and it also offset the pay cut I had gone through due to the bankruptcy of my company. Oh yes, my 401K's, they were restored by November too. In early November, because of the political turmoil of what I believe was a stolen election, I decided to pull the Vanguard money out of the market and put it back into cash. That, as it turns out, was too early. The market and my 401K's continued to go up for a few more months, while my Vanguard investment just sat in cash. Another missed opportunity because I didn't know when to be out and when to be in the market. I didn't know how to maneuver. Up until 2022 in August, I was still treating my 401K's like a hands-off savings account and never touched them. However, I was also getting ready to retire from Pace Industries. I was now getting to be 65. The whole process of retiring was so interesting and bothersome. Medicare, I didn't understand. I received dozens of mailings. Rules for receiving the small pension from Pace. Rules and procedures for filing for Social Security. Decisions kept needing to be made, and I was trying to figure it out as I went and talked to my friends and those that had recently retired. In the process, I came to realize that my totally neglected 401K's had started going down again in 2022, down by about $80,000 in the year I was going to retire. So I knew a financial guy, Bernie, and planned in August and September to roll over the 401K's from Fidelity, American, and Principal all into one or two accounts. He would set it up so that they were invested and I could choose when I wanted to start receiving required withdrawals from them. Well, I never went forward with Bernie. Something much better for me came along. I say came along because I really didn't know who to go to, and I wasn't searching much. Just wanted to work with people that would give me some control over what happened to my money. Perhaps come along is a poor way to put it then. More accurately, as I pray and worship and wonder how to do the right thing, I tend to get answers. So in this case, it is my opinion that the next happening in my finances was a God send, or God at work in my life. Enter in Paul Hallmarker and Spire Stocks. I was introduced to Paul, learned how to and when to maneuver and self-direct my IRAs. How exactly our meeting occurred is worth telling. As you know, Grandma and Grandpa Hill have tried to live a life that follows God's plan. This has led us to keep our Catholic faith. We homeschooled our 8 children. 2 of the 8 also became religious sisters. We took on circumstances of severe illness, such as Mary's epilepsy, my prostate cancer. We weren't stupid about our money, but often had other priorities and really didn't know where to get started with getting our 401Ks to be more dependable investments. Well, while arranging for our two daughters to see each other for a few hours at the Borremeo Center in Philadelphia, and our two daughters that we're arranging the meeting for are both religious sisters, Sister Teresa Paul and Sister Margaret. So we're getting them to meet each other at the Borromeo Center, and we get to meet another sister, Sister Maria Karol. Well, Sister Maria Karol was our tour guide for Don and Mary Hill, while our two religious daughters were having a one-on-one meeting, some time to visit. So Sister Teresa Paul, she is Dominican, Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist. And Sister Margaret is a Capuchin sister. Two different orders, rarely getting together, and sometimes only for a few hours. So we give them the few hours together, and we get a tour from Sister Maria Karol. She starts to tell us her story, her family, and her vocation story as to how and when she decided to become a Dominican sister. And she listened to some of my stories, my Grandpa Hill true stories, told live about me, our family, and our journey. My problem solving, and especially my love of math, even though I'm not as sharp as I once was, led Sister Maria Karol to be sure, quite sure, she knew that I should meet her dad and her dad should meet me. Her dad is Paul Hallmacher. Well, later that summer of 2022, there was the 25th anniversary of the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, and somehow, probably the Sister Teresa Paul and Sister Maria Karol coordination, I met Sister Maria Karol's dad, Paul. He was witty and quick with math games and puzzles and riddles. As we talked and laughed and enjoyed the day with our families and each other, we also spoke of the stock market. I learned that in his math capabilities and analysis of data and trends, it's what he does. Fontis Consulting. One of the products of Fontis, in addition to the models and software that he provides to his client companies, was another product, Spire Stocks. Spire Stocks and Paul were going to become the answer to my problem of not knowing who to go to, who to trust, to have me learn how to maneuver in the stock market. By learning how to follow the sentiment of the market, I would then be selling, getting out of the market when the market was turning towards bear, and buying when the market was turning from bear to neutral to bull. I told my son Michael about this process, and we had a joint call with Paul, the CEO of Spire Stocks. He explained the basics of how his software worked and how simple maneuvering would grow the 401Ks better than the indexed mutual funds that never get touched. I started gathering up my 401Ks, and Michael started maneuvering immediately based on the market sentiment indicator that is part of Spire Stocks. I had by September set up the Roth and the traditional IRA were all rolled over to a self-directed accounts at Schwab. My daily losses stopped immediately. I was in all cash. Losses stopped, and then I retired in October. Then in November, there was enough of a bull market indicated by Spire Stocks to go back into the market. Recently, with the bank failures, I have moved all investments to cash and am anticipating the turn of the market as indicated by Spire Stocks. This means that the downs of the market, I'll still experience those a little. In the ups of the market, I'll experience them a lot. It was such a relief to get control of my 401Ks. Then, knowing that I am able and ready to stop the big negative swings in the value of the IRAs, that I am confident everything will work out fine. Going forward, my 401Ks will still perform as expected. But I am expecting so much more. Now they are self-directed, and before I could only make a limited number of moves when they were part of the company. Now I know what to do and when to do it. With a subscription with Spire Stocks, the market sentiment indicator will guide my timing. Well, that's my story. I will be adding more to it as events unfold. Paul has made such a big difference in my life already, and I am anticipating promoting Spire Stocks and Paul Hallmacher to my listeners, family, and friends for years to come. When I went back in time and looked at what happened to my 401Ks and what would have happened if I had had a subscription with Spire Stocks, I was surprised at how easily I could have made so much more money using Spire Stocks. To understand the difference between the do-nothing investor, which would be me, and the maneuvering investor using Spire Stocks, I look back in time to the bull market of 2020 and 2021. The numbers in the following example are approximate, yet very realistic. They're based off of having my mutual funds indexed to the S&P 500 in my 401k. So what happened to $100,000 with a do-nothing investor back then? $100,000 dropped in value at the end of February and early March by 31%. So $100,000 in the do-nothing account would go down to $69,000. Then in late March, it started a long climb till January 2021. The market did. And the market was up 107%. If the mutual funds of the do-nothing investor climbed as much as the S&P 500, the 69,000 would become 142,000. That's a gain from the original 100,000 in February of $42,000 in just 22 months, or about 21% per year. Not bad. Not bad at all. Could I really have done any better with Spire Stocks? Better than 21% a year? So with Spire Stocks, my $100,000 would have lost some money in the beginning of the bear market, but not nearly so much as 31%. The Spire Stocks sentiment indicator would have started to turn to bear, and after a day or two into the drop, I would have followed the indicator, perhaps losing, say, 4% of market value, which would put me down to $96,000. I would have stayed in cash until late March, when a bull market was indicated. As the market came back, I would put all of the $96,000 back in the market. Probably I would miss some of the beginning of the increase in value. So let's say I missed 4% again of the increase. Then the $96,000 would only climb 103%. Unlike the do-nothing investor where he was going to climb 107%. So the $96,000 by January 2021 would have grown to $195,000. So the original $100,000 was now worth $195,000, up 95% in just over 2 years. If I had gone into cash when Spire indicated and then back to the market when Spire indicated, I would have made $95,000 or about $50,000 more. 42% for the do-nothing investor, or 95% with those two simple moves, one out and one into the market. I am convinced that if I were a member back in 2020, a member doing one maneuver out of the market when Spire stocks indicated bear, and one move into the market when Spire stocks sentiment indicator was bull, my original principal at the start of the bull market would have doubled. So with the do-nothing investor, their principal from the start of the bull market also doubled. The difference being that they were doubling the $69,000 and the Spire stocks investor was doubling $96,000. As I said at the start of the example, the numbers are approximate yet realistic. If you contact Spire stocks, Paul will be able to give you exactly what dates were indicated for this one maneuver out of the market and then back into the market a month later. He can even work you through exactly what would have happened to your particular 401k if you had used the indicator. I want more people to know about how they can easily maneuver their 401k. And of course, it doesn't have to be a self-directed 401k. It can be the employer-managed 401k. The investment you maneuver can even be just your cash. Paul Hamacher at Spire Stocks was good news to me. He and Spire Stocks are now part of my Grandpa Hill's True Stories. It's my story. It happened to me, and I am letting the listener know how I am on my way to faster growth of my 401ks after going so much slower in growth as a do-nothing investor. I've spoken to Paul about this, and I am able to announce to you that anyone who wants to work with Spire Stocks can go to spirestocks.com. Start a free trial and send an email to notification@spirestocks.com and tell them Grandpa Hill sent you, and you will receive a discount subscription. Spire Stocks, most likely Paul, will get in touch with you and start working out what will work best for you, which funds that you'll go into and come out of, which stocks you would go into and come out of to get you started. Let them know, let Spire Stocks know that Grandpa Hill referred you and take it from there. You may be paper trading or even maneuvering your 401k within just weeks, or which was my case. Or your situation may be closer to my son's case. He started maneuvering his 401k the very next day. Until the next slightly wiser Grandpa Hill True Story, remember to think about your situation, act as you are able, and then laugh a lot and live life fully. Shalom.